Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if smart Naruto built harem with Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Tenten part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. A woman with long flowing white hair that she left loose blow behind her, from which two red horns protruded and pale skin that had a purple tint to it. She is draped in an oversized white kimono and carries a set of prayer beads, and at her side is a tanto next to her. She was watching a blonde 13-year-old boy with blonde hair, blue eyes, and 6 whisker marks on his face. And she grew concerned with what the people did to him. Do they have no trust in their previous leader or me, the goddess of death, she said as she looked at the boy. And even though the boy did not know it, she felt that she could call the boy one of her warriors. He was an Uzumaki, after all. She then gained a look in her eyes before snapping her fingers as a portal opened as a window. It showed a white, equine creature with an androgynous appearance that resembled a Qilin or centaur with a gray, vertically striated underside and has a striated pattern has similar recurrences on the underside of its mane, tail, and face. Its 4 pointed feet are tipped with gold hooves and a long mane juts from its head. The creature's face is gray, with green eyes, red pupils, and a circular green pattern below its eyes. It also has a streak of gold coloration on its head and ears that point upward. Its neck is fairly long, with 2 pairs of extrusions to the sides and a flap-like feature on the neck's underside that is colored white like much of the body. It also has a golden cross-like wheel attached to its body by its round abdomen, and the wheel also has 4 jewels attached to it. Yes, Shinigami, the creature asked the now-named Shinigami. Yes, Arceus, can you do something for the one that holds my seal like you did for the one you did for magic? Shinigami asked the creature. The same one, Arceus asked as Shinigami shook her head. A different world that I have control over, Arceus asked as Shinigami nodded. Arceus hummed at that as the equine creature hummed for a bit of a while before nodding. I can do that, Arceus said before looking at the Shinigami, but there must be at least 3 others going with him, Arceus added as Shinigami nodded before gaining a look on her face and then smiling. I have just the 4, Shinigami told Arceus. I would like to help as well, a female voice called out as 2 looked over to where the voice came from. It's you, Shinigami said. Land of Fire, Konoha, Konoha Hospital. On the roof of Konoha Hospital stood Team 7 of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. Both male members of Team 7 glared at each other before they ran at each other with punches and kicks flying at each other, and Sakura watched them helplessly as they fought with each other. Both boys ran through the sheets of the hospital and continued fighting before they jumped up to the railing and battled in the air for a while. Naruto was the one that landed first as he summoned an army of clones. They attacked Sasuke as the Uchiha landed. Sasuke jumped away from the clone army, formed the tiger seal, and breathed a giant fireball at Naruto and his clones. But as the number of clones was diminished, the fire was getting sucked into one part of the roof. Naruto, Sakura muttered, feeling bad she could not have stopped Sasuke. So she watched. And to her, both amazement and shock as the flames disperse. Naruto stood tall with a clone next to him, and his hand opened with a spiraling ball of chakra in his hand. What is that, Justu? Sasuke asked as all the fire was gone, and he formed lighting in his hand. Damn it, he cursed. Sakura watched as both Naruto and Sasuke got ready to kill each other. Naruto jumped up with the ball of chakra in his hand and the lightning in Sasuke's hand. Sakura knew she had to do something. So she started to rush up to her teammates but tripped on the ground, and she saw her sensei run up to try and stop them. He failed as some unknown force pushed Sasuke closer to Naruto, and both jutsu met. As both jutsu met in the middle of both boys, chakra started to grind into each other while also trying to tear itself and protect itself before it bade a large black orb that cracked the world around it, and both Naruto and Sasuke were blasted away from the hole in the sky they made. More ninjas of Konoha appeared around as Sakura explained what was going on and how Sasuke forced Naruto into fighting him with a sense of what Sasuke did to him. You are too much like your mother, Geki, Jiraiya told his student as Naruto nodded. Yeah, I know, but Naruto said before seeing something in the hole of darkness. What is it? The toad sage asked the blonde. Am I seeing things, or are there red eyes looking at us? Naruto said as he looked into the orb of darkness he and Sasuke made. And there was indeed a pair of blood-red eyes looking at them. Before anyone could say anything, a high wind picked up as people started to be pulled toward the orb. The older ninjas sent chakra to their feet, ensuring they stuck to the hospital's roof, but some of the younger ninjas held onto the older. But Sakura was really unlucky as she was swept off her feet as she was almost sucked into the hole. She felt a tug along with the sound of chains moving and turned to see a spiked golden chain embedded in her. As she looked to where the chain had come from, she saw that it had shot out of Naruto's hand. But it seemed that Sakura was not the only one that was getting sucked into the orb of darkness as there a few other girls were getting sucked in as well. Naruto shot out more chains as cries of Hinata, Tenten filled the air as he licked his chain to each of them, but with the strength of the vortex that was pulling the girls in, he was pulled off his feet and into the air as he shot another chain at the ground holding him in place. I can be rid of him if I do that, Sasuke thought as he took an explosive kunai from one of the ninja and threw it at where Naruto had anchored himself and the girls. And everyone watched in horror as he set off the explosive tag, and Naruto, Sakura, Hinata, and Tenten were sucked into the hole of darkness before it closed behind them. Realm of the Gods. Naruto, along with the four girls, was in a heap on what looked to be silver marble, and as Naruto got up, he gasped, "Don't tell me," he muttered as the girls got up as well. What do you mean Naruto? Hinata asked the blonde who was looking around. I know this place, and we are not allowed here, Naruto said as he started to move quickly. The girls looked at each other and then at the retreating Naruto before they joined him. Hey, Blondie, where are we? Tenten asked him as they caught up to Naruto and passed buildings. And where are we going? Ino asked as she looked annoyed by the face she was pulled from Konoha with the blonde. One of the two safe places that I can go if I'm here, Naruto said as they reached a large building with large columns with winding depictions of animals. He muttered something under his breath that none of the girls could hear as he walked into the building, and the girls followed him in. They found a woman sitting on a gigantic couch with multiple animal pelts as they entered. Everything made the five of them seem like ants in comparison, including the woman. Mom, why are we here? Naruto called out to the giant woman, who turned to Naruto and smiled at him as everything started shrinking to average size as chairs formed behind them. Naruto, girls, welcome, Naruto's mother said to them. Now, if you can wait a moment as the woman who called you here is coming soon as I picked you girls for the reason that will be explained to you, but please wait, she said as Naruto nodded. Okay, the girls turned to him, shocked. That's your mother, the four girls asked him as he nodded. Why isn't she in Konoha? Who is she? What is she? Do you know where we are? Are we going to be able to return home? That was only a tiny number of the questions Naruto asked as Shinigami walked in. Naruto bowed his head at her as the girls looked shocked at the woman who had just walked in. I'm sorry that we had to do this, my warrior, she told Naruto, who nodded. I understand, my lady, Naruto said as the girls felt their eyes ready to pop out at the respect Naruto was showing the woman. May I ask why we have been summoned? Naruto asked her. You may, and the reason is simple. I grow tired of how those fools have both mistreated you and think that my power that holds back that beast is not strong enough, Shinigami said as Naruto nodded as the girls had no clue what was going on looked between the two of them. So I called someone who owed me a favor and asked her if she could take you from them so that you could grow and be the real Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki and save your future, Shinigami said as Naruto's eyes popped wide. My dad's the fourth, he asked his mother, who smiled at her son. Did you really think just anyone could be with me other than my female Uchiha lover? She asked her son, who looked sick. Hey, half of me is a goddess of that pantheon. I do some of that as well, you know, she told Naruto, who rolled his eyes at her. So why have we been taken as well? Sakura asked as Shinigami turned to the pink-haired girl. I did so to save you all from your futures as well, she told her as Sakura looked confused. What do you mean to save our futures? Sakura asked her. Well, in your case, you have your dream of marrying Sasuke Uchiha, Shinigami said as Sakura smiled. Naruto hid the upset look on his face, but Sakura soon gained a look of shock and horror. The S-rank criminal that has tried to kill Naruto Uzumaki a grand total of 5 times tried to kill you twice. And he would have succeeded if not for my warrior here. Shinigami said as Sakura did not like what she was hearing. He broke into the 5-cage summit and attacked the Kazekage and Raikage. With Mizukage and Tsuchikage joining in on attacking them, and he fought to killed the steward of Konoha and almost killed another one of my warriors. He joined the one that killed your third leader of his own want and joined a terrorist organization that wants to kill my warrior, Shinigami said as Ino joined Sakura in dread as they both loved the Uchiha, and hearing this was destroying them with the sincerity in her voice. But Shinigami was not the slightest bit done. He helped bring back Orochimaru from the dead, held the world hostage by telling everyone that he would control the Biju, and to add the cherry on top of his crimes, he said that he would destroy Konoha and burn it to the ground with everyone in it, Shinigami said as both Sakura and Ino was openly crying. How do you know this? Tenten asked her as Shinigami smiled as her visage started to become demonic with sharp teeth and a serpent-like tongue coming out of her mouth. Sakura, Ino, she's the Shinigami, Lady of Death, patron goddess of the Uzumaki clan, Naruto said as he looked away from Sakura. It shocked both girls, but Sakura looked at Naruto, and he did not look at her one bit. And it hurt her more than Naruto did not call her Sakura-chan. Anyway, through the years, you either knowingly or unknowingly used my warrior here to state you want for the Uchiha, where when Naruto becomes Hokage, would give Sasuke his master job of spymaster, Shinigami said as Sakura looked defeated and hating her future self. Sasuke would cheat on you with the other of my warriors that he tried to kill, and you both would pass the girl of as your daughter while you do get your own back on the Uchiha by sleeping with Naruto and giving him a son, Shinigami said as she paused to take a drink of water. Naruto's wife was okay with this as she was slowly losing power from her clan, but I'll get to her in a moment, Shinigami said as she looked at the others, who nodded. Anyway, after a while with Sasuke always away from the village you would stay close to Naruto, but you both knew that you could never tell your son and said son would become like Sasuke, bringing an end to the ninja world, Shinigami said as she then moved on to Ino. I guess I'm next. Ino said as she sounded defeated. Yep. You go through your life in the village for a while before you lose your sensei and spend the night with Naruto. And then you lose your father during a war that Sasuke helped form and slept with Naruto once more after the said war before marrying someone who has had his emotions lost to him and only just found them, Shinigami said before moving on to Tenten. For you Tenten, I'm sorry to say, but you are practically forgotten in the village after the war that Sasuke Uchiha helps bring forth, Shinigami said as that hurt the girl worst. Then we have you, Hinata, Shinigami said as she turned to the meanest girl of the ninja. It starts with when you fought the fake leader of the Akatsuki, Shinigami said as Naruto narrowed his eyes. Fake leader of the ones trying to take the fox from me? Naruto asked as Shinigami nodded as Naruto's mother narrowed her eyes. Are they now? She muttered. Artemis, you can go after them later, Shinigami said as the now named Artemis nodded, narrowing her eyes. Back to you, Hinata. Your cousin Neji gives his life to save you, and when the war is over, you marry Naruto, and after Naruto and Sakura's son, you and him have a daughter before you are slowly exiled from your clan and is just known as the wife of the Hokage, Shinigami said as Hinata looked sad with that. Naruto looked at the others before back at Shinigami. Where are we going to be going? Naruto asked her. To a world filled with magnificent animals, Shinigami said as she snapped her fingers. Backpacks formed in front of them with gauntlet-like bands forming on the laps of the genin, each one a different color. Naruto's one was red, Sakura's was pink, Ino had a purple, Hinata's was blue, while Tenten's was gray. Now then, before I send you off to get your starter, you can have this to make your starting home and a home while walking around, the goddess of death said to them as she handed them 2 capsules, with one having the number 1 while the other having the number 0. Now, the second thing I'm going to give you, or to be more precise, Naruto, I'm going to give you the Rinnegan, but this one allows you to return your eyes back to normal, Shinigami said as she walked over to Naruto and touched Naruto's head. When she moved her finger away, Naruto felt his eyes burn, and he felt chakra move to them as they started to change to utterly purple, with circles covering the entirety of the eyes. These Rinnegan are stronger than the normal ones as they can have all the power of the Sharingan and Mangekyo Sharingan, Shinigami said before 2 portals opened. One was behind the goddess, and the other was behind the ninja. But just so you all know, you can still return to your original world now with the capsules, and you can keep the dojutsu Naruto, she said as she pointed to one of the portals behind the genin. But if you want to go somewhere, you can be the real you can take the gifts, you can step through this one, Shinigami said as she indicated to the portal behind her. Naruto was the first to stand up as he picked up the backpack and went to the portal behind Shinigami. A silver moon formed above Naruto's head, and his blonde hair gained some crimson streaks, and his left eye, when he turned off the Rinnegan, turned from pure blue to a silvery blue. I've claimed you, now you can understand all animals, Artemis told her son. Sakura looked at Naruto, making his way to the portal before she made up her mind and walked over and joined Naruto with Tenten and Hinata joining her as well. Ino looked behind her at the portal, then at the ones who walked over to the portal behind the goddess before joining them. So you all pick a new life, she said as they nodded before stepping through the portal. All the clan heads of Konoha, along with the civilian council, sat down as they waited for both the Hokage and the accused as the 3 elders walked into the room. It seemed that this was going to happen with how the Uchiha is, Shikaku Nara said as his former teammates nodded. You're right, but it does trouble me that no one but Jiraiya-sama knew about Naruto's chakra chains, Inoichi told him as a member of the civilian council looked confused. Why are the chakra chains important? The head of education asked them. The chakra chains or Kongo Fusa are passed down from his mother, the previous head of the Uzumaki clan, who was the Jinchuriki before Naruto, Asuma said as he let out a cloud of smoke. They have complete sealing power as well, but as Naruto had just learned how to use them, they are slightly weak, Jiraiya said as he walked in, but if the Uchiha did not do what he did, Naruto would have saved the lives of the girls as well as himself, he added as Kakashi, who was the head of the Hitaki clan, said nothing as he knew what he could not say anything that would save his student. Tsunade then walked in and sat down as she looked at the doors that would soon lead to the last local Uchiha. Bring him in, she called out as the doors opened as Anbu walked in with the Uchiha in chains as they sat him down. Sasuke Uchiha, do you know why you have been called here today? Kaharu called out as she looked at the boy. I do not, Elder Kaharu, Sasuke said, but Inoichi leaned closer. I would tell the truth, boy, he told him as Sasuke glared at the man. Fine, I got rid of 5 nuisances, Sasuke said, but Homura shook his head. No, child, no, you have made Konoha weaker as you have made sure that we have lost our Jinchuriki, the next head of 3 clans, with one of them being our Jinchuriki, Homura said as Sasuke scowled at the man who was talking down at him, and with witnesses stating that you started the fight on top of the hospital as well as the trying to steal clan techniques, Homura said as Sasuke scoffed. What clan techniques? Sasuke asked. You've used your Sharingan to copy a technique that belongs to my clan that I have allowed Lee to know as our clans is becoming one with my adoption of him, Guy said as he was the head of the Lee clan, standing in for his student. Sasuke did not like what he was being told, so what, I'm the last Uchiha, the last of the clans that founded this village, it is my right, Sasuke told them as the Aburame scoffed at him. The last Uchiha? No, you are not, Shibi said as he shook his head. In this village, yes, but not the last, he told Sasuke. And your brother would be the better choice at this moment, Choza said as the other clan head, Bar Kakashi, nodded at what he said. But should he be punished for this? The head of agriculture of Konoha asked. Yes, as of this moment, we are weaker than we should be, and it is thanks to this child, Danzo told the woman, who looked away from the bandaged man. Tsunade looked down at Sasuke before nodding to herself. Then I have the only way that we can move forward, she said as everyone turned to her, artificial insemination, and then we can seal off his chakra and put him in prison for the 5 years for what he has done, Tsunade said as Sasuke's eyes shot wide as she. What? He yelled up at her, but she looked down at him with a cool look. Your clan helped found Konoha. Yes, but my grandfather's clan also did, Tsunade said as Sasuke scowled at her, but it would have fallen without the aid of my grandmother's clan, the same clan that your teammate Naruto Uzumaki is the head of, the Uzumaki clan, the Go-Daime Hokage told Sasuke, who did not like the situation he was in. The clan head and the civilian council nodded at each other before they turned to Tsunade with Sume standing up. We say yes, Hokage-sama, she told her leader. Tsunade nodded back at Sume before standing up. Rabbit, monkey, snake, wolf, take him to the medical bay, and I shall send Shizune there so she can get the sample, she told the 4 Anbu, who nodded and started to drag Sasuke out the room. Wait, don't do this, I'm Sasuke Uchiha, the next head of the Uchiha clan, he shouted before being dragged out the doors by the Anbu. Shikaku shook his head before looking to the civilian council and the elders. He is like this because you lot fill his ego too much, he told them as they looked away from him. Jiraiya, have you managed to get the toads to help bring them back? Tsunade asked her teammate, who shook her. Why? She asked him. They said that something strong is blocking things from summoning themselves to his position so that they could summon him back, Jiraiya said as the ninja looked shocked. What can stop a summon from accessing their summoner? Hisashi asked the sage, who shrugged. Only a god or goddess, Artemis said as she walked in, and Jiraiya looked shocked at the man. What? She asked him with a smile. The toad sage blinked a few times before nodding. Well, at least I do not have to give the brat 50 ryu, he said as Artemis laughed at him. So you're a goddess? He asked her as Artemis nodded. The rest of the rook was shocked by what he said. Now then, I am here to say I am disappointed in all of Konoha, Artemis said as she started to tear into Konoha verbally. Kanto, Pallet Town, Professor Oak's laboratory, main study. Professor Samuel Oak was shocked as he had just finished talking to a goddess about how people from another world to his world to start over. He was shocked, and the goddess filled him in when he asked about them. So now he was waiting for the people coming as he looked at a portal in front of him. And it looked like the picture of a portal that his cousin Samson sent him. And his wait was soon over as Naruto and the girls stepped through the portal. So you're the ones I was told about, Professor Oak said before looking at their feet. Can you please go take your shoes off and then come back so we can get to business? He asked them as they looked down and nodded. The 5 of them went out and took off their sandals before they returned. Thank you, I'm Professor Oak, and welcome to Pallet Town, Professor Oak said as the genin sat down. Where are we exactly? Sakura asked. I mean, all Naruto's mother told us was that we were going to another world, Tenten said as the others nodded. Oh, that makes sense, the professor said with a slight nod. You are currently in the Kanto region, Professor Oak told them as they nodded. Now, before we begin, does anyone have any questions? He asked the genin, who shook their heads at him before he pulled out a projector and started a presentation. Now, in this world, there are fantastical creatures that go by the name of Pokemon that populate the world, Professor Oak told them as Naruto raised a hand. Yes, he asked Naruto. Naruto, and are there different types, as well as how many are there? Naruto asked as the girls saw that he was alert. And to say it shocked them. To the second question, No one knows how many Pokemon, but at the last count, there were 1,025 species of Pokemon in the wild, Professor Oak said as Naruto nodded, and for the first question, yes, there are types as each Pokemon can be said to have at least one type of 18, the man added. The 18 types are normal, fire, fighting, water, flying, grass, poison, electric, ground, psychic, rock, ice, bug, dragon, ghost, dark, steel, and fairy. The man listed off as they all nodded as it was Hinata who raised her hand this time. Once, the professor nodded, I was wondering how would you distinguish if a Pokemon was FR from one type, Hinata asked as Naruto looked at her. Well, if it's like animals from our world, Hinata, you can tell by how they act around a habitat, Naruto said as Sakura looked amazed. How does he know that? She thought to herself. That is right, but there is another thing that can help you, Professor Oak said as he pressed a button on his remote. On the screen, a gray circle with what looked to be ears at the top of the circle was shown. Normal type Pokemon show what they are by showing that they look like normal animals from your world, he told them as he pressed a button as two Pokemon was shown on the screen. It showed an equine Pokemon with cream-colored fur, a pointed horn on its forehead, red eyes, and triangular ears with reddish interiors. On its neck flowed yellow and reddish-orange flames from a long, flowing mane, and a shorter version of the hair trails down its back to its equally fiery tail. The one beside it was a quadrupedal, canine Pokemon with black fur, a long orange snout, and an orange underbelly with small red eyes and a black nose. Atop its head was a pair of long, curved gray horns. Around its neck was a white band with a small skull-shaped pendant on its throat, two white bands on each of its ankles, and three rib-like ridges on its back with a long, skinny tail with a triangular tip and three clawed toes on each paw. There are two ways to know if you have a fire type, as with these two Pokemon, Houndoom, Professor Oak said as he pointed at the canine Pokemon before pointing at the other, and Rapidash, they are mostly seen to either have flames on them, like Charmander does on her tail, or have a part of their body in yellow, a bright red or bright orange, Professor Oak informed them as they nodded. He then moved it to the next slide, moved on to show a red circle with a white outline of a fist. Next is the fighting type who mainly uses punches and kicks, he said as another slide came up. The symbol that was shown this time was a blue circle with a white water droplet. Now, water-type Pokemon are aquatic animals or are animals that live near the water, the professor told them as three pictures showed up. The first was a small, white Pokemon resembling a seagull, with its head making up a significant portion of its body, and it appears to lack a neck. It had thin, simplistic eyes, two triangular tufts on its head, and an orange beak with a hooked, black tip. Three blue-tipped feathers gave it a fan-like tail, and its tiny, orange feet had two webbed toes. Next to it was a red-shelled, crustacean Pokemon with a short tail similar to a lobster whose eyes are saucer-like with small pupils, and it has three spikes on top of its head. It has 4 pairs of limbs in total, 2 of which were large pincers and 3 pairs of legs used for walking, with the upper segments of the legs, the underside of its body, and the lower halves of pincers being cream-colored. Then there was a large fish with reddish-orange scales, large, vacant eyes, and pink lips with its pectoral and tail fins white. On its back is a stiff, 3-peaked yellow fin resembling a crown. An identical fin is on its underside with long pale yellow barbels. Wingull is a Pokemon that lives by the sea. The professor then moved his finger to point at the crustacean. Corfish lives in the water but can walk on land for a long time, he said before pointing at the fish. And finally, for Magikarp lives and is not able to be on land as the biology that it has, he said as the next slide came up showed a sky blue circle with a wing-like symbol. Next is the flying type. And these Pokemon are those that can fly through the air or that can call the wind to aid them in battle, Professor Oak told them as before he told them about all the types, and after an hour, they all had the information that he told them and allowed it to sink in. So any questions about Pokemon types, the professor asked them. How do humans work with Pokemon? Ino asked as she reflected on the information that settled in her head. I'm glad you asked, Ino. Professor Oak told them as he stood up and beckoned the 5 to follow him into his lab where 5 balls were on his desk. Each ball had a red top with a white bottom and a button in the middle. These are Pokeballs that hold one of the Kanto starter Pokemon, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, the professor said as he pointed at 3 balls before pointing at 2 others. These 2 are reserve starter called Eevee and Pichu, he said before pointing to the other 2. He then released all the from Pokemon their balls. The first was a small, quadrupedal amphibian Pokemon that had blue-green skin with darker patches, red eyes with white pupils, pointed, ear-like structures on top of its head, and short, blunt snouts with a wide mouth and a pair of small, pointed teeth are visible in the upper jaw when its mouth is open. Each of its thick legs ends with 3 sharp claws, and on its back is a green plant bulb. This little man is a Bulbasaur, Oak said as he looked at the next one. Now, this Charmander here is a little special as she is a shiny Pokemon, he told them. Charmander was a bipedal, reptilian Pokemon with a primarily yellow body and blue eyes with its underside from the chest down, and the soles of its feet are light cream colored. It has 2 small fangs visible in its upper jaw and 2 smaller fangs in its lower jaw, with fire burns at the tip of this Pokemon's slender tail. What do you mean by shiny? Hinata asked as she looked down at the small reptile. It is a Pokemon that has a different color from normal, Professor Oak said before he looked at the next Pokemon. This little shy boy is a Squirtle, he told them. Squirtle, like Charmander, was a small reptilian Pokemon, but Squirtle resembled a light blue turtle that looked to be standing on 2 feet. It had large, purplish or reddish eyes and a slightly hooked upper lip, with its hands and feet having 3 pointed digits. The end of its long, squirrel-like tail curls inward, and like all turtles, its body is encased in a tough shell that is brown on the top, pale yellow on the bottom, and has a thick white ridge between the 2 halves. And as it looked up at the Genin and popped his head into its shell. As I said shy, the professor said as he smiled down at the turtle. Now then, the energetic one is Eevee, Professor Oak said as the next one looked to vibrating on the spot. Eevee was a small, mammalian, quadrupedal Pokemon with primarily brown fur at the tip of its bushy tail, and its large furry collar is cream-colored. It has short, slender legs with 3 tiny toes and a pink paw pad on each foot, and Eevee has brown eyes, long pointed ears with dark brown interiors, and a small black nose. He is energetic, isn't he? Naruto said as he heard the small animal speak a mile a minute. And for the last one, this little lady is Pichu, the professor said as he pointed at the last one, looking elsewhere. Pichu was a small, ground-dwelling rodent Pokemon with pale yellow fur. Its ear tips, collar, and tail are black and angular. Pichu has pink cheek pouches, and its tiny nose looks like a dot. So Pichu is an electric type, right? Ino asked as the tiny yellow mouse looked at her. That's right, Ino, Professor Oak told them before he looked at the 5 of them. So who will you pick to be your starter? He asked them as the ninja and the Pokemon at each other. The 5 looked at each other before Hinata made a majestic, let's have Naruto go first, and then we girls can go after him by going in ascending order by our teams, she said as the others nodded. So Naruto stepped up first and looked down at the fire type. I'll pick you, he told her as she nodded up at him, both feeling something from the other. Naruto seemingly has controlled and uncontrolled rage, while Naruto should sense the same from the Charmander. I'll pick Bulbasaur, Sakura said as the small green-skinned red-eyed grass and poison type walked over to her and nodded. Hinata took her turn as she looked down at the hiding turtle, and for some strange reason, they both felt a connection. I'll take Squirtle, she told the professor, who nodded. I'll have the ball of energy as I'm used to dealing with Lee, Tenten said as Eevee ran over to her and started to run around her legs. That means I'll have Pichu, Ino said as the small yellow mouse walked over to her. After the Genin had gained their starters, Oak turned to them. SP that you know, then I was told that you each have a Pokédex, he said to the ninja. Naruto nodded as he held the gauntlet on his arm, and the girls did the same. Do you mind? Oak said as he held his hand. Naruto took the Pokédex off and handed it over to the man, who looked it over before nodding and handing it back to Naruto. Just make sure that you aim it at the Pokemon that you want to be scanned, and then we'll see, Oak said as Naruto put the Pokédex back on. And Naruto did as he was told and pointed at his starter, Charmander. And when he did, the voice of the Dex sounded, and it sounded like Artemis. Dex Entry 4, Charmander, the lizard Pokemon. Charmander's health can be gauged by the fire on the tip of its tail, which burns intensely when it's in good health. The Pokédex told them is a hologram of a Charmander formed above the dial as the hourglass changed to that of a diamond. This Charmander is a female and a shiny with the ability of Blaze and the hidden ability Solar Power. This Charmander is the Terra type of dragon. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Charmander knows, the voice of Artemis said. Sakura then did the same for her Bulbasaur, Dex Entry 1. Bulbasaur, the seed Pokemon. A young Bulbasaur uses the nutrients from its seed for the energy it needs to grow. The Pokédex told them as a hologram of Bulbasaur appeared. This Bulbasaur is a male with the ability of Overgrow and the hidden ability Chlorophyll. This Bulbasaur is the Terra type of fairy. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Bulbasaur knows, the Dex said as Sakura then turned the dial and started to read the move list of her starter. Tenten was the next one to go as she held up her gray Pokédex. Dex Entry 133, Eevee, Evolution Pokemon. Eevee is a unique Pokemon that can adapt to its environment by changing its form and abilities when evolving. The voice of Artemis said as Tenten looked down at her partner with wide eyes. This Eevee is a male with the ability of adaptability and the hidden ability Anticipation. This Eevee is the Terra type of Steel. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Eevee knows, the Dex told its holder as Tenten did just that before looking at the professor. Professor, what is an egg move? Tenten asked the man. An egg move is a move that they gain from birth that is sometimes more powerful than what they normally have, Professor Oak told her. What egg move does your Eevee know? He asked her. Curse, Tenten said as the man nodded. That is a pretty common egg move that they learn, so it's fine, Oak told her as Tenten nodded. Hinata was the next one to scan her starter, Dex Entry 7, Squirtle, the tiny turtle Pokemon. During battle, Squirtle hides in its shell that sprays water at its opponent whenever it can, the Dex said as the Squirtle popped his head out. This Squirtle is a male with the ability of Torrent and the hidden ability Rain Dish. This Squirtle is the Terra type of water. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Squirtle knows, the said before turning off as Squirtle jumped into Hinata's lap as the two just looked at each other. And then Ino scanned her little mouse. Dex Entry 172, Pichu, the tiny mouse Pokemon. The electric sacs on Pichu's cheeks are small. If it tries to store more electricity than they can hold, Pichu will shock itself. The small hologram of Pichu and Ino's starter looked at the hologram with interest. This Pichu is a male with the ability of Static and the hidden ability Lightning Rod. This Pichu is the Terra type of Psychic. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Pichu knows. As the four genin looked over the moves of their Pokemon, the professor was filling out paperwork for each of the five in the room as a portal behind them opened up, and Artemis walked out with 5 girls behind her. Sorry to come unannounced, the goddess said as the girls looked up with Naruto looking confused. Mom, is something wrong? Naruto asked, but Artemis shook her head. No, I just came as Shinigami told me that she forgot to give you 5 some clothes, Artemis said as the girls with her walked forward, showing that they each had a chest in their hands. Each girl wore a white shirt, silver jacket and silvery camo pants. Hey, Phoebe, Naomi, Jessica, Reina, Zoe, Naruto said to the girls, who each waved at Naruto as Sakura turned to Naruto. She knew that she did not deserve to ask who these girls were. So Tenten asked him, hey, Blondie, who are the girls? The girl next to her, who had red hair, said, he might as well be our brother as Our Lady is like our mother, she told Tenten, who looked amazed as she looked over to Naruto. These 5 are 5 of my mother's hunters. They are named the Hunters of Artemis or, when Mom is in her war mode, as I like to call it, Hunters of Diana. Naruto said before he looked back down, not seeing that Sakura was looking over Charmader's move list. Or trying to, but saw that the words were different from hers. I am Phoebe, the red-haired girl said as she placed the chest next to Tenten. The other girls then placed the chest down in front of the other four before walking back over to Artemis. You five now have everything that you will need, Artemis said as she and the girls walked back through the portal. The girls looked over the chests and saw that they were all domed chests with hinged lids made from ebony with silver bands over the dome top and running over the sides along with the bases of the chests. But that was where the similarity of the chests ended, as each had a different pattern along with the latch and handles. Naruto's chest had a flame pattern to the bands, with the handles looking to be fox heads holding large rings, and the latch was the Uzumaki clan spiral. The chest that Sakura had the bands in Celtic knots with the handles looked like crab claws holding the metal ring, and the latch was of the Haruno clan ring. The metal bands from Hinata's chest were like crashing water, with the hands being lion heads holding the rings and the latch being a yin-yang symbol. Tenten's chest had dragon head handles with diamonds cut out of the silver bands, and the latch was the Konoha symbol. Ino was unhappy as she had pigs holding the rings while the metal bands looked like flowers, with the latch being the Yamanaka clan symbol. Naruto opened his chest and saw that it was filled with clothes for all types of weather, so he looked up at the professor. Is there a place where we can change our clothes? Naruto said as the girls looked at them before each of them opened their chests as well and saw the same thing. The professor looked at the chests at the feet of the 5 new trainers before looking back up at them. Ah, yes, if you go through that door and follow the stairs up, there are 2 rooms, Oak said as he pointed out of the room. The girls can use the one on the left, and Naruto can use the one on the right, he told them as they nodded as walked out the door he had indicated. The 5 went upstairs to the room they were each given to change into their new clothes. Naruto walked over to a bed and placed the chest on the floor before pulling out the clothes, looking over them, and starting to get changed. Oh, master, Naruto heard behind him as he turned around and saw his Charmander looking at him. And knew she had seen the scars all over his back from what the village had done to him when he was growing up. I'm okay. I heal fast because of my duty, Naruto told the fire starter, who nodded sadly up at him as she walked over and rubbed Naruto's leg, nuzzling him. Naruto smiled down at her and started putting on clothes, starting with black socks, before picking up the silvery camo pants and putting them on. He then put on a dark orange nylon belt with a square buckle that had moons on it. He then put on a black shirt with a design over where he had his seal in orange before putting on a short-sleeved orange coat with a black flame pattern around the hem and black fingerless gloves before looking at the forehead protector he had put on the bed. Master, there is a note here, Naruto heard Charander say as he looked down to see where his starter was looking and saw another forehead protector with his clan symbol with a note attached. Naruto, I have put multiple Uzu forehead protectors within a scroll that you can unseal so that your Pokemon can have a gift. Naruto read as he pulled out the forehead protector and then looked down at his partner. Come here, Naruto said with a gentle voice as he knelt down and tied the forehead protector around her head. Charmander looked happily up at him before going in for a hug. Naruto smiled at her and hugged her back. He then pulled out a messenger bag, put it on the bed, and started to fill it before looking down at 2 scrolls. He slipped them into the inside pockets of his coat and went for the door to hold a pair of combat boots. With the girls at the same time. The girls walked in, placed their chests down, and started looking through them. Well, 3 of them did as Sakura looked out the window at the new world that she was in. Ryo, for your thoughts, Ino said as the pink-haired girls turned to the Yamanaka. Just thinking, Sakura said as she opened her chest. Is it how things would have turned out for you? Tenten asked her as Sakura stopped and nodded. I guessed so, she sighed. Hinata said nothing as she stripped down to her underwear, showing that she had lavender panties on along with a matching training bra. At the same time, Ino looked at Tenten, so I can't help but wonder something, Ino said to them as Sakura and Hinata looked at her. The Shinigami, the goddess of death, Naruto's own patron goddess, has said that 3 of us get fucked by the blonde with whiskers, Ino said as Sakura rolled her eyes and Hinata blushed. Yeah, Tenten asked with a raised brow. So it makes sense for us 3 to be sent here, but why you? I answered her as Hinata looked over to Ino. I'm more worried about the one person who has hurt Naruto the most being sent here with him, Hinata said. Sakura flinched as she looked over to Hinata, who glared at the pink-haired girl. You had your wish come true, the Uchiha was yours, so why come here, Hinata said as her Byakugan activated. Hinata, Ino started, but Sakura held out a hand to stop her friend. You're right, my future had gotten my wish. I had got the one I wanted and had him all to myself, and what did I have to do to get it? Sakura asked the girl, walking up to her. Throw away the only person besides my parents to actually care for me and treat him like dirt as made him make a promise to bring back someone who would join an organization that wants to kill him, Sakura said as she took off her pouches cashed them off to the side. That me made Naruto's life hell, made him cheat on you and had a son that would turn out like Sasuke, Sakura said as she looked at her forehead protector before letting it fall to the floor. I don't deserve to be here. And I know I should have just gone back so I would return to what I always would be, Sakura said as she held her arms out making herself an easy target for the angered Hinata. And what is that? Hinata growled at Sakura as she approached the girl. A whore for the Uchiha clan, Sakura said with no emotion in her voice. Sakura, Ino muttered as Hinata looked at Sakura dead as she turned off her Byakugan. Then why the fuck are you here not bending over for your Uchiha? Hinata asked her. Sakura looked at the angered Hyuga in front of her with a face as still as stone. It was me thinking about a new start for me and to away from the one person who has caused me more trouble than every other person and a way to make it up to Naruto, Sakura told her as Hinata looked at Sakura dead in the eyes before nodding. If you do so much as do anything like that to him in the future, I will not hesitate to seal off your chakra and destroy your heart, Hinata said as both girls separated as Ino and Tenten let out sighs that they held did as they both stripped down to their underwear as Ino started giggling. Ino wore dark purple panties and no bra, while Tenten was commando. What is it? Sakura asked her. You just got threatened by someone who is only in her underwear, Ino said as Hinata blushed. Did that do dos no not me mean that I mean it, Hinata said as Sakura stripped down, showing that she was also wearing panties and a matching training bra but was light pink. Just ignore Hinata, as she is missing a few screws, Sakura said as she looked through the chest before pulling out light pink socks and putting them on. Tenten pulled out boxers with a zebra pattern and put them on, and Ino found a purple bra and put that on. Hinata pulled out navy blue jeans and slid them on before pulling out a lavender and cream hooded jacket with lavender cuffs. So what are we going to do while we're here? Tenten asked as he put on a training bra that looked like her boxers. I know we are going to find jobs here, Ino said as she put off a pair of thigh-high black stockings. We're going to have to ask the professor what professions there are out in this world, Sakura said as she put on a red skirt with the Haruno white ring. Tenten then put on a high-collared kipao dress with red trimmings and a pink flame pattern on both sleeves. I guess you're right. I have a question for you, Sakura, Tenten asked as she put on a pair of puffy maroon hakama-styled pants with the hips exposed. Yes, she asked as she put on a white t-shirt. What is this fox that this group is trying to take from Naruto? She asked as she put on black socks. Yeah, I did wonder about that, Ino said as she was putting on a purple skirt. I don't know, Sakura said as she pulled out a red crop jacket with the Haruno symbol on the back and put it on. I think I do, Hinata said as she finished putting on a form-fitting light lavender, sleeveless kimono-style blouse with vertical lines tied with a dark purple obi around her waist. What then? Tenten asked as she looked at her backpack and was putting things into it from the chest. Back when Naruto fought Neji and when he burst out WWI with that red CH chakra and when I looked at it with my Byakugan, it looked alive and turned into a fox, Hinata said as she put on her lavender jacket. Alive? Sakura asked as she finished sorting out her bag. Yes. Why? Hinata asked with a head, and Ino looked over as well with a raised brow as she finished putting on another high-collared purple blouse, but this one exposed her midriff. The only other person that we know who had living chakra is Gaara, Sakura said as the other girls looked shocked before they looked at each other. Do you think that Gaara and Naruto are alike? Ino asked her with her joking side gone. Naruto is not a killer, though, Sakura said as Ino and Hinata nodded, but Tenten was quiet. Naruto has said that the Shinigami is his clan's patron goddess, and with what Gaara turned into during the invasion, if I'm getting it right, it is a Biju, the one tail to be exact, Tenten said before their eyes shot wide. He holds back the Kyuubi, Hinata said as the shock stopped her stutter. Sakura started to think back to the time in the forest and then on the bridge. He can call out its power as well, she whispered. But she might as well have shouted it. They said nothing before a knock came at the door. Girls, are you ready? They heard Naruto ask them. No one said anything before Sakura looked at the door. Naruto, can you come in? We would like to ask you something, she said as the other girls looked at her wide-eyed. Are you sure? They hear Naruto on the other side of the door. Yes, we're dressed, just putting our bags ready, Sakura said as Naruto opened the door and walked in. Charmander was next to him as he entered the room and looked at the girls but said nothing as Sakura looked him dead in the eye. Yes, Naruto asked. Do you have the Kyuubi sealed within you? She asked him outright. Naruto was so shocked that he did not know what to say, but he nodded. Can you show us the seal? Tenten asked as she knew seals. When Naruto lifted his shirt, Tenten looked amazed by the seal as she tried to read it but got lost. What is this seal? She asked him. My father made this sealing using a simple form of the Uzumaki sealing technique, with him using the Shiki Fujin to make a Hake no Fuin Shiki, Naruto said as he told Tenten, who looked amazed. So you like Gaara? Ino asked as she looked at him, and Naruto saw something in her eyes that made him possibly take a step back, shocking them. Yes, me and Gaara are siblings of burden as we are the jails and wardens of our Biju, and our duties are the following. Make sure that we hold back the Biju, be the least one sent to the war and the last to return, and finally, if needed, pick the next in line to hold our burden, Naruto said as he turned to leave. Then why are you not like Gaara? Ino asked as she took in the information, stopping Naruto just at the door. Gaara had no one who cared for him while I only had a handful, but that handful was enough to make sure that I did not fall into the darkness, and I have the added bonus that my Biju lets me sleep at night, Naruto said as he walked out, leaving the girls to their thoughts before they slowly followed him. Naruto stood outside the room that the girls were in as he mulled over everything the girls talked with him about. He heard the door open, and the girls stepped out. Let's head back down, Naruto said before they could say anything. When they returned downstairs, they found Professor Oak filling in paperwork. Tenten spotted her name before the professor looked up at them. Ah, there you are now, then let's finish your trainer information. So one more, Naruto's going first, so age and when you were born, he asked him. I'm 13 and was born on the 10th of October, Naruto told the man who wrote down the information. Next, what gender do you identify as? Professor Oak asked Naruto, who twitched. Gender fluid, Naruto said as the girls looked shocked. Being the only son and biological of a woman who hates men, you get born with being both genders, as it was why I made my Waroke no Jutsu, Noro told them with cold eyes before rolling them. And the girls could not help but think that he would have pulled that off if he looked like a girl. Okay then, now starter Pokemon, Charmander, and no other Pokemon, the professor muttered as he filled in the information. Now I'll ask you all these questions now so that it will be easier. Now, when you have caught more than 6 Pokemon, you have to send them somewhere, and I would like to ask if you would like to send them here, he asked them as they looked at each other. Naruto looked down at Amaterasu. Is he a good person to send my Pokemon? He asked the fire type. The girls looked shocked, but Oak paid them no heed as he always wanted to know what the Pokemon said and what they wanted. He's excellent at looking after Pokemon Master, and he always looks after every Pokemon no matter the type, Amaterasu told him as Naruto nodded. I would like to send my Pokemon here, please, Naruto said with a nod. May I ask why there is a 6 Pokemon limit? Tenten asked him as the professor rubbed his eyes, and they could tell that it annoyed him greatly. The Pokemon Association determined 6 to be the ideal maximum at which a trainer could give all Pokemon on hand sufficient care and attention, he told them as they nodded. Still, they could see that it was not the case. That was the reason the Pokemon Association gave us, but the other regional professors and I found out the actual one, and it's to stop a trainer from making an army of strong Pokemon, he told them as they nodded. Alright then, I'm going to be classed as your professor, and in the future, if you go to the other regions, you will continue sending your Pokemon to me, Professor Oak told them as the girl finally looked back at them. Are you all alright with that? He asked them. Yes, Naruto said as the girls looked at him before they nodded. Alright then, Sakura, Oak said as he looked at the pink-haired girl. 13. The 28th of March and female, Sakura told him as he nodded before turning to Hinata. 13. 27th of December and female, Hinata told him as he nodded before turning to Tenten. 14. The 9th of March and female, Tenten said. Alright then, and finally, Oak said as he looked at her. 13. 23rd of September and female, said as Oak finished the paperwork. Follow me, he told them as the new trainers stood up and followed him into the lab, where he started to feed the paperwork into a machine. They saw that it was Hinata's information before a machine started to beep. Now, Hinata, I'm going to need you to use your Pokédex to download the information, Professor Oak told her as Hinata moved up to the computer and helped up her dex while stretching her arm out. The synthetic voice of Artemis spoke. Do you wish to download this information? The dex asked her. She looked at the professor, who nodded at her. Why yes, Hinata said, but it sounded like she was asking. The hourglass turned into a blue ring, a small hologram of her with tiny bits of information. As the dial turned itself clockwise, blue squares formed over the dial, with one of them having a squirtle before it turned clockwise once more before going back to the hourglass. When needing trainer data turn dial anti-clockwise, the dex said before going silent. The others had their paperwork fed into the machine and then downloaded their information before the professor looked at the new trainers that were there. Now then, after talking with a friend, I have found a place that you can put that new house of yours, he told them as he held a box out to them. We can head there after you take these, Professor Oak said as they found 30 Pokeballs. They all took 5. They put them somewhere safe and easily accessible before they all walked out of the building. They followed Professor Oak, who led them to the door before he put on a pair of badge shoes. The others put on their sneakers and boots and followed him out before they found a large plot of land. This is where you can place your house, he told them as Naruto held the capsule in his hand and looked at the top part of it. It looked like a button. He narrowed his eyes before pressing the button, letting it go, and tossing it. It landed on the ground, and everyone looked at it. Is it meant to do so, Meth? Started saying before being interrupted by a large puff of smoke that overcame the pace before they could see a large shape hidden behind the smoke. Once the smoke had blown away, it showed that they were dwarfed by a large red circular building with 2 other large circular towers at each side. And it looked like there was another circular building behind it. It looked like the Hokage building. They looked up to the sky and saw that the sun was setting as Professor Oak turned to them. I would suggest you head out in the morning to start your journey, and I would suggest going by foot so that you can see the world for everything that it has to offer, he told them before pulling out a book and handed it to the closet person. It was Tenten. That book has all the information on the different types of trainers, he told them before walking away. Naruto looked at the girls and then back at their new house. Shall we go in? He said as he opened the door. They walked into their new house and found the main entrance hall leading off to different parts of the building, where a staircase led to the balcony covering most of the ceiling. The hall was made of limestone with wood edges, and the floor was black marble. In the middle of the hall was a fountain made of white marble with a tanuki statue, making Sakura flinch when looking at it, spewing water into the bowl below it. To that right was an archway leading to a large circular room with a low ceiling, full of squashy armchairs, tables, a divan, low-backed black and dark green button-tufted, leather sofas and dark wood cupboards. Over to the side was a large fireplace that dominated one wall, with a fire roaring nicely in it, with the central part of the fireplace in the shape of a lion's mouth. Potted plants were dotted around the room, and copper lamps cast a warm light that looked powered by electricity. Tenten flipped the switch on, and the lamps turned on, showing more as the room was powered by electricity. The 5 found patchwork quilts on the sofas, a large midnight blue carpet covered in stars, and a large coffee table. The color of the wall was golden. I think this is the sitting room, Hinata said as she looked around before spotting another arch. They found the living room with a large 97-inch TV mounted on the wall and 2 speakers held up by 2 prominent serpentine dragon statues. The floor was a charcoal black carpet with leather sofas and seats that looked like they reclined. The ceiling had lights that looked embedded in it, and large bookshelves reached the roof to a large chest of drawers. The walls were decorated with scarlet tapestries that depicted various animals. There was a circle cut out of the wall that led into the next room, and after going through it, it led to a kitchen that looked to be state-of-the-art and what looked to be a note on the fridge. The girls could not read it, but Naruto looked at it and nodded. This fridge, as well as the one that your capsule house will have, is something that is called a multiverse fridge that allows you to pick food from other universes. Naruto read before he looked at the fridge and it looked like it had a screen. You can read that? Ino asked as she pointed at the note. Yeah, it's the language of the people that worship my mother, and thanks to that, my brain is hardwired to read that, so I have trouble reading any other language, Naruto told her as she nodded. Before Naruto could look at what was in the fridge, Sakura grabbed his attention. We should look at the rest of our new home first, she told him as he nodded at her. The 5 of them walked back into the living room before stepping back out of it and into the hall. Sakura flinched when he saw the snake statue. That is the second time you flinched when you looked at the statue, Sakura, Tenten said as she looked at the pink-haired girl. That's Shukaku the Ikibi, Naruto said as the girls looked at him. I saved her from it with the help of the Toad Summoning Clan, he said as Sakura's eyes shot wide. Sasuke told me you saved me but did not tell me how, Sakura said as Naruto shrugged. It's fine, Naruto said as they went to the left, another archway where they walked into a library. It has chairs of many shapes and sizes with large chandeliers. As the 6 wandered shelves, Sakura looked around at the extensive library and the vast array of books. They then looked through the library before they left. They found another room that looked like a movie theater. It looked state-of-the-art, and the arms of the chairs looked like snakes. What's with the snakes? Ino asked as the Konoha crush was still fresh in her mind. They are one of my mother's sacred animals, Naruto said as he walked past them as they walked down the front and found something with many names. It seems that we have a lot of films to watch when we are here, at least, Ino said as they walked out and made their way to the next room. In the next room, they found a sizable swinging pool with foundations shaped like cloaked women holding urns with water flowing into the pool. The ceiling above them was a mural of a night sky with the stars shining brightly and fully illuminating the room. This is amazing, Naruto said as he looked at the ceiling. They took a good look around the room before they left and saw something that was behind the stairs. A hallway led to another door that looked to lead outside, and Naruto checked out the stairs to find that they led to storage units below the house and a small bedroom that looked like it did not belong to anyone there. Storage, he told them as he returned to the girls. As a group, they walked up the stairs to find more rooms and another fountain, and the first room was just as they got up the stairs. What is this fountain? Ino asked. It was of a cat on its hindquarters with 2 tails as they curved outwards, forming a heart behind the cat, and the cat also looked like it was made of flames. Brat, tell them that it's my sister and my queen, Naruto heard in his head. The QB wants to let you know that is his sister and queen, Naruto said as he shook his head. Curse that bastard for making this link, he muttered. So this is the Nibi, Hinata said as she looked at the fountain. What did Jiraiya-sama do? Sakura asked him. He made me train to use the QB's chakra, Naruto said as he got rid of the feeling, and when someone likes me, or as we are called, Jinchuriki, goes into our inner world for the first time to meet our Bijua link informed where they can speak with us freely, Naruto said as no one said anything and turned to the rooms and saw that there was 5 of them. The first door they walked up to had a dragon head on it, and when they opened it, they found it empty. What is this room for? Naruto asked as Sakura looked at the animal head on the door. She then looked at the other doors and saw that they each had an animal head on them. A boar, fox, wolf, and the room next to this one was a lion. I think that this room belongs to the person that fits with the animal on the front, Sakura said as the girls nodded, but Naruto did not look convinced. What were the other animals? He asked Sakura. A boar, fox, wolf and lion, she told him before raising a brow. Why? She asked him. If that was true, I would have the fox, but that belongs to you, Naruto said as he pointed at her. She looked confused as he walked out, and the girls followed him. 10. Naruto said as he pointed at the boar door before pointing at the dragon door. 9. He said before moving over to the lion door. 8. 7. Naruto said, pointing at the fox door. Odd one out, Naruto said as he pointed at the wolf door. So this room is mine, she asked as she looked at the room but found it a little small. It looks a bit small to be a bedroom, she said as Ino gained a look in her eyes. After what Professor Oak told us that a trainer travels the world, Ino said as the 4 others looked at her. She put her hands on her hips, and as we know, when we are not traveling the world, this is going to our home, so I'm thinking that this is going to be rooms that he uses to wind down after a journey, Ino said as Tenten looked at her. So you're saying that when we come back here, this room is going to be used for whatever I want? Tenten asked as Sakura looked amazed with how Ino figured that out. The others then walked over to the other room and opened them to find them empty as well. I think that it's the same size, Hinata stuttered as she looked at her room. After they were done looking at their room, they continued walking on the 2nd floor and found that the library had a 2nd floor before they were sent to the next door to find that it was a trophy room. They then went up to the next floor, where they found an big open space with only 1-2 room and another fountain. This one was of a turtle, with a crab-like shell and spikes all over its body and 3 shrimp-like tails rising a wave as water sealed down over its body. I'm going to go on a limb and say the Sanbi, Tenten said as they walked past the fountain. Naruto felt a pull to one of the rooms. He walked over before opening the door and found a giant statue of his mother with a large bronze bowl at the statue's feet and a roaring fire within the bowl. Naruto knelt at the statue as the girls looked at him, shocked, before he stood up and walked out. I have never felt better, Naruto said as he let out a sigh. They walked over to the other room and saw that it was a spa. So it seems that we both have room to relax, Naruto said as he walked out and headed for the stairs. Wait, I see 2 doors here, Tenten said as she pointed off to the side and then moved her finger to the other side. They walked over and saw that they had a large balcony on one side, and when they walked over to the other side, they found that it was an aviary. They walked out of the aviary and went up to the next floor and fountain. This one had spouts covered by what looked like volcanoes. The volcano in the middle, gorilla standing on his legs beating its chest, and on its face were elongated blunt fangs and 2 long horns curving upwards on its forehead like a crown, and at the gorilla's feet, the water cascaded down like lava. I have to say I love the design of the fountains, Naruto said as he looked at it. I agree, Ino said as they looked at the floor and found a load of bedrooms. I think this room is for the guests, Tenten said as she looked confused. They did not say anything else as they came to the next room and found it partially a relaxation area filled with games and other activities. This time, they saw that the fountain was in a wooden room. Is that a seam room? Sakura asked as she approached it. Gobi has the power of boil release. Naruto heard the QB in his head again. It seems that the fox just told me that the Gobi gives its Jinchuriki boil release, Naruto said as they looked at the fountain. It was not really a fountain. It was more the stature of the Gobi, who looked like a horse with a dolphin's head that had horns, standing on a very thin layer of water with small puffs of steam coming out of holes in the base under the water. The next floor, as they walked up to it, was a large round safe filled the room along with a fountain of a slug with water flowing out and over it. So this room is a giant safe, Ino said with a flat face. They just walked up to the next floor. The next floor was a gym with equipment, gear to help them train, and another fountain. This fountain, armored kabutomushi, a helmet-like skull, also has spike protrusions on its shoulders and a row of slits on each shoulder, and 6 legs, 3 on each side, with 6 of its 7 tails resembling green insect wings and an actual 7th tail, all going from the end of its abdomen. It has 2 pincers with 3 parts on its face, covering a mouth full of sharp teeth, and on its back behind its head, it has a large 2-sectioned horned protrusion. Nanabi? Naruto asked the fox sealed within him. That it is, Kyubi said back. The kabutomushi looked to be flying as water flowed off the wings. We have 3 more floors from her, and we have to find our bedrooms, Naruto said as he walked up the stairs, where they found 4 rooms. These rooms belonged to the girls as the doors had the animal head on the door, and it was the same as the doors on the 2nd floor. The fountain on this floor was of Anishioni with 4 long horns on its head and octopus's tails roaring with water being shot out its mouth. So this floor belongs to you 4, while I think the next floor has my bedroom, and then the floor after that is the roof, Naruto said as he walked up to the next floor with Sakura following him as the girls slowly followed them and found that Naruto was right. The fountain on this floor was of the Kyubi standing on the base with water just above its hands and feet flowing over the fox. Within the darkest part of the Anbu headquarters, where prisoners were screaming and each wanting blood or to kill someone, Sasuke Uchiha sat in the darkness of the prison of Konoha as he wallowed in hate about what the Hokage had done to him. It was all her fault. How dare that fat-titted bitch do this to me, Sasuke thought as he stewed in his anger. So what if he got rid of a few minor people within Konoha? 2 of them were his fangirls, so they owed their life to him and should be glad they served him a purpose. The 5 of them did as he needed as he was important. To Sasuke, they got the best they could ever have for them. It was all their fault. But no, I had to fight the Hokages, Golden Boy, and who would have become Chunin if I didn't say anything, a rank that I deserve, Sasuke growled in his head. So what if he stopped Gaara or brought back the Hokage and even saved the Hokage from one of Orochimaru's men? I'm the one that deserves the rank. I'm the one that people would be calling a hero. I should be allowed to leave this pile of shit village so that I can reach my true goal and kill Itachi, he thought bitterly. As he thought about his brother, the incident when Naruto was getting the Hokage came to his mind. It was all his fault. How dare he, that blonde idiot, over me? I should have been the one he was after, but no, it was that blonde retard, Sasuke growled in his head as he pictured the day that it happened. But it was always Naruto, and everything seemed fitting for the blonde. The blonde did not matter. Sasuke was the one that mattered in Konoha, and he should have had people bowing down to him. But no, as Sasuke thought, an Anbu in a full-body black cloak with a demonic-looking mask. Sasuke Uchiha, I have come here to let you out, the Anbu said as Sasuke looked up at the Anbu with a raised brow before recognizing the voice. Kabuto? Sasuke asked as the Anbu moved the mask to show that it was indeed Kabuto Yakashi. Well, aren't you a pitiful sight to behold? Kabuto said as he walked over to the door, opened it, walked over to Sasuke, and started to undo all the bindings and seals on Sasuke. Why are you helping me? Sasuke asked the silver-haired teen. The spy chuckled at him as he worked on the seals. I work for Orochimaru-sama, and when word got to him that you were being held in the Anbu prison, he told me to come and get you, so here I am, Kabuto said as he finished removing the bindings off Sasuke. Sasuke started to stand up as Kabuto walked out the door with the Uchiha following after him and was shocked at the sight before him. Dead bodies were scattered around the hall as they walked, with Sasuke getting flashbacks from when he was younger with his older brother. "What's the matter, Sasuke? Does this bring back memories?" Kabuto asked with a smile as he turned to the Uchiha. Sasuke said nothing as he glared at Kabuto, who chuckled at Sasuke before they walked to the end of the hallway and found 4 people waiting for them. Or was it 5, as one person seemed to have 2 heads. There was a teenage girl with dark red hair, the one with 2 heads had straight blue-gray hair. The next had tufts of orange hair on his head, a mohawk running down the middle and 2 similarly styled tufts at the side. And the last one had 6 arms with black, shaggy hair pulled tied into a ponytail. "What the fuck took so long, Kabuto?" the girl asked him as Kabuto chuckled at her. "My deepest apologies, to Yuya," Kabuto told her with a dark smile as the 6 started walking out of the Anbu base and headed into the forest around Konoha. As they reached a large dark area of the forest, they were, "Now then, let's get that curse mark sorted out," Kabuto said as he looked at Sasuke. "Now then, for you to tap into its full power, we need to put you in a death-like state for it to reach its full power," he told Sasuke, who nodded. "Right," he told the hard man as a round coffin was unsealed. "So, just step inside and take one of these," Kabuto told him as he held Sasuke's medical balls. The Uchiha nodded and did as he was told. Sasuke fell lifelessly into the coffin as the Oto ninja with him, and Kabuto started to form seals and then called out as they capped their hands together, "Shikokumujin." A dark purple smoke formed around the coffin before pulling in until it wrapped around the lifeless form of Sasuke. "Sakin," Kabuto called out as the one with straight blue-gray hair walked forward. 2 arms formed from his back and clapped their hands together as seals formed over it. Kabuto put the lid on, and the seals formed over the lid as well. "Saul, we are off," he said as the one with 6 arms picked up the coffin and the 5 walked away into the dark forest. The next day, Hokage building, Hokage's office. Soon sat behind her desk as 2 Anbu stood before her. "So he was taken?" she asked them. One Anbu had a wolf mask, while the other had a monkey mask. "No, ma'am, as we have video evidence that Sasuke Uchiha went of his own accord with the aid of Kabuto Yakashi along with the 4 that aided Orochimaru when they attacked, turning the Suna incident," the Anbu with the monkey mask told her as Tsunade nodded. "Do we have audio?" she asked them. "We do, Tsunade-sama, and the last thing that we heard from Kabuto Yakashi was saying something about his curse seal," the one with the wolf mask said. "Something to do with his curse mark, you say?" she asked them as they nodded. "It must be the power Anko told us about when she was his student," Tsunade said in thought as she bit her thumbnail. Tsunade stood up and walked over to the bookshelf. "And from what you told me, they have a day on us?" she asked them. "That is right, Hokage-sama," the monkey-masked Anbu said. Tsunade pulled a book off the shelf and walked over to the window to look out of it, "And thanks to Shizune, we have the means to make more Uchiha as she took the needed samples from him, so we no longer need him alive so," she said before turning around to look at the Anbu. And the look she sent the Anbu at her desk made them stand up straight and rooted like the trees surrounding their mighty village. "I want you to spread the word that Sasuke Uchiha, as of this moment, is labeled as an A- rank missing nin and with a kill on sight order with a bounty of 68,200 ryo," she told them as they nodded and jumped off. "Tora," Tsunade called out as another Anbu appeared next to her, but this one with a tiger mask. "You summoned me, Hokage-sama?" Tora asked her. "I did, Tora. I have a mission for you," Tsunade told him as he nodded at her. "I want you to gather your team and go after Sasuke Uchiha with the intent to kill all of them," she told him. "Understood, Hokage-sama," Tora said before nodding, and Tora jumped away. "Do you think this is a good idea, Harem?" Jiraiya said as he was off to the side of the office leaning against the wall. The elders, along with the civilian counselor, Well, not like this, he told her with a smile that showed that he did not care anyway. Tsunade turned to him before scoffing. I know, and those windbags and go as stuff it as if they forgot that we have just yelled at by a goddess, and said goddess was the wife of the Yondaime and mother to one of the few that was taken because of the Uchiha. I know that Konoha will want to do as much as it could to fixing their mistake, Suan told him as he nodded. That does make sense, he said to them, but it's more than that, isn't it? Jiraiya asked her with a knowing look. Of course it is, he's our grandson, for fuck's sake, and I am not going to piss around with this, Tsunade said as she looked back out at Konoha with Jiraiya joining her, looking out at the village. And like that, word of Tsunade's order spread like wildfire throughout Konoha, and every man, woman and child knew that Sasuke Uchiha was now a wanted man and those who tried to talk her out of it were held for treason against Konoha. Kanto, Pallet Town, House of Ninja, ground floor, living room. Sakura, Ino, and Tenten sat in the living room, waiting for Hinata and Naruto to make breakfast. They were sitting at a large round table that had 5 seats. Sakura and Ino were skeptical of Naruto's cooking ability but held their toughness as they sat silently. So, did either of you read that book the professor gave us? Tenten looked over to them and asked. No, but I do have an idea of what I would like to do, Sakura said as Ino looked at her. And what's that? She asked the pink-haired girl. I would like to be a doctor or something, Sakura answered her as Ino and Tenten looked at her. When we were in the village, I was going to ask Tsunade-sama if she would teach me how to be a medical ninja, she said as Ino raised a brow at her. You wanted to be a medical ninja? Ino asked her, and as Sakura nodded, well, I guess that means you would be seen as something as I would have become the next head of the Yamanaka clan, and that's all I would have to be seen as, she told them as Tenten winced. It's more than I'll be seen as, Hinata said as she had a horde of Naruto clones walk in. The Naruto clones put plates in front of the girls along with food on the table. There were plates of toast, sausages, fried eggs, fried tomato, bacon, fried mushrooms, black pudding, a large bowl of beans, and a large bowl of steamed rice. And that was only a tiny portion of what was on the table, along with a jug of orange juice, a teapot and a large coffee pot. They place pet bowls on the floor for the Pokemon to eat and drink. Hinata, did you make all this? Sakura asked her, but Hinata shook her head. I only made the TT, she said as Sakura and Ino looked at Naruto, the clones dispelled, and Naruto shook his head. Note to self, Rinnegan, can give me more eyes as I can see through the eyes of the clones, Naruto said as he shook his head and moved to sit down. Naruto, you cooked all of this for us? Sakura asked her teammate, who nodded. Then why do you eat ramen? She asked him. 2 reasons. The first is that because of the fur ball seal within me, people don't want to sell me anything fresh, Naruto said with a shrug as the girls looked disgusted, and the second is because of my clan, he added as he moved some food onto a plate for him. Because of your clan? Tenten asked him. For some reason that is unknown to both me and my mother, who was put in the mortal shell of a stillborn, does not know why each Uzumaki is addicted to ramen, Naruto said as the girls each had a sweat drop. I'm not going to even touch that, Ino said with a shake of her head, but why do the people of Konoha do that? She asked him. To them, my father did not seal the kyubi in the body of an infant. He used the power of Shinigami-sama to change the kyubi into an infant, Naruto said with a roll of his eyes, but with them thinking that they have used everything that they could do to make sure that I do not get strong enough to fight back, so giving me food that is rotten, rusted or weighted weapons, and finally kicking me out of lesson that I would need for the future, he told them as Sakura, Ino, and Hinata remembered times when Naruto was chucked out of class for no reason whatsoever. So that was why, Sakura thought. So that means our cute teammate was treated like that, Sakura's inner self told the outer one. Yeah, Sakura said back as she took a bite out of a sausage before blinking. Sorry, did you say cute? She asked her inner. I mean, yeah, look at his blue eyes that look like a beautiful sea that is calm, and his whiskered face looks like a cute fox, she told her as the outer Sakura blushed. Ino looked at her before looking over to Hinata, who was holding the book the professor had given them and looking through it. So, do you know what you want to be? She asked the Hyuga, who let out a cute eep, and looked at Ino. I've seen that there is their 13 trainer claw calces, Hinata stuttered out as Ino nodded. So, 13 classes, Tenten said as she ate a piece of toast. And each one must be different from the last, Naruto said as he ate what looked like his third plate of food. So what are they, Hinata? Naruto asked her. Well, the 5 first claw class is called Poki Artist, where you make art with doctor drawings, pa paintings or fa photos of Pokemon, Hinata stuttered out as the others nodded. Then we have Pokemon Athlete and that is where you train your Pokemon to play in games like Pokeringer or Raising or things like that, she told them as they caught the interest of Tenten. Pokemon Athlete sounds interesting, she said as she thought of it. Then we have Pokemon Breeder, who, as the name says, breeds Pokemon for different reasons, Hinata said before moving on to the next one. Then we have Pokemon Company Coordinator, who goes into Pokemon contests and have them show their beauty with their mauve moves, Hinata said. Ino's eyes shone at that bit of knowledge. I'm being that, Ino said as the others looked at her before, they nodded. Then we have Pokemon Director where they uses their Pokemon to make films, Hinata informed them, but none of them like that. Then we have Pokemon Do Doctor, and that name says it all. And then we have Pokemon Groomer, who give their Pokemon special treatment to bring out its best for what they need, Hinata said as they all nodded. Next, we would be Pokemon Master, where they learn and master each Pokemon type and make them as strong as they can, Hinata said as this caught Naruto's attention. I think that I would do that, Naruto said as they all looked at him. Out of us all, only me and Tenten are the more into fighting, and I think that I'm more of a battle nut than Tenten, he said as the girls looked over to Tenten who nodded. He's right, she said with a nod. And anyway, we each have Pokemon Performer and next. And that C class is on only run B by female trainer. And it's to show off teamwork in Pokemon's showcases, Hinata said as the girls looked amazed but nodded. The next two look the same on the surface but are different as we have both Pokemon Professor A and Pokemon Researcher as they both look after Pokemon but a Pokemon researcher Finn finds a field of research and Lou looks into it to find the answer, she told them, but none of them looked really interested. And then the last two are Pokemon Stylist, is a person who sketches and designs clothing and accessories for Pokemon, and Pokemon Watcher Who is a person who studies Pokemon, observing them under the ownership of a Pokemon trainer and in their natural habitat. Hinata finished reading the classes for them. Tenten and Sakura were quiet as they finished breakfast, and Naruto summoned more clones as they took the plates to be washed up. I think that I'll be a Pokemon athlete, Tenten said as they looked at her, and thanks to the 2 training nuts on my team, I know how to get someone extremely healthy and overpowered, she said as Naruto nodded. Yep. I trained with Guy for a little taijutsu training, and I still have the bruise on my spine, Naruto said as Sakura's eyes shot wide. How? She asked him. This is the only thing that Kyuubi and I agree on, Naruto said as he looked her dead in the eye. Might Guy is a monster in the form of a man whose stamina can meet an Uzumaki, Naruto said as Ino raised a brow at her. They got up with the Pokemon following behind them. And Uzumaki's stamina is so much because of our chakra, and we can go days on end, Naruto said as the girls looked amazed. Both Hinata's and Sakura's faces were crimson, and Ino's cheeks gained a little red on her cheeks. And they thought about what they learned from the Shinigami about how those 3 slept with Naruto. Before you 3 go off the deep end, the 2 of you have to pick jobs, Tenten said to Sakura and Hinata. Oh, right, they said back. The 5 former ninja of Konoha were walking along as they looked around them. I have to say, while I am missing home, this place is beautiful, Ino said as they all walked around. Naruto listened to the wild around him as he heard the voices from each and every Pokemon. It is, and the voices of the Pokemon are loving the forest, he said as the girls looked at him. You can hear their voices, and understand them? Sakura asked him as they walked. Yes, thanks to my mother being the goddess of the wild, all animals, be it birds or fish, I can understand them, he told her before he stopped. And it seems my first battle is here, Naruto said as the girls looked forward and saw him looking at a dog-like Pokemon. It was a quadrupedal Pokemon similar in appearance to hyenas and canines. Its body is primarily gray, with a black face, throat, paws, and belly. Its eyes are red with yellow sclerae and a red nose. Its lower jaw has two pointed teeth sticking out. The fur at the base of its tail is rumpled and shaggy. Puccina has gray paw pads on their three-toed paws. Hinata raised her arm and scanned it. Dex entry 261, Puccina, the bite Pokemon. Puccina is an omnivore, it will eat anything. A distinguishing feature is how large its fangs are compared to its body. This Pokemon tries to intimidate its foes by making the hair on its tail bristle out, the Pokédex told them. Naruto smiled at them. So little lady, shall we battle? He asked the Puccina, who looked at him. Yes, Lord Naruto, she told him as Naruto called out Amaterasu. The bite Pokemon ran forward with a mouth full of ice. Amaterasu, use Dragon Tail to keep her away and then move in with Scratch, the blonde said. When Puccina got close, Amaterasu spun around. On her way around her, the tail started to glow cyan with a pattern of scales before it met Puccina's head, knocking her away. Amaterasu jumped forward with white glowing claws as she lunged at the dog-like Pokemon. As the others watched, Sakura did not know she gained a small friend sitting beside her. They were a quadrupedal, feline Pokemon resembling a lion cub or lynx kitten. Its front half is light blue, while the rear is black. A short tuft of fur is on its head, and smaller tufts are on each cheek. The top tuft is smaller on the female Shinx. It has large, oval ears with yellow, star-shaped markings on the insides, yellow eyes, and a tiny, red nose. A black marking encircles Shinx's neck like a collar, and there are yellow bands above its forepaws. The hind paws are black on the male Shinx and blue on the female. Spiked fur surrounds the base of its long tail, tipped with a yellow star shape. Puccina's body gave off a slight green glow before she lunged at Amaterasu. Use Ember to get her off you, and then use it once more, Naruto called out as the lizard Pokemon let out small pellets of fire from her mouth that got Puccina off her before Amaterasu started to pelt Puccina with small fire pellets once more as Puccina was being pushed back. Naruto narrowed his eyes before he pulled out a Pokeball and tossed it at Puccina, and it sucked her into the ball. Everyone looked at the ball as it rocked once. It rocked a second time. It sounded when it rocked the third time, and Naruto's Pokédex went off. You have caught this Puccina. This Puccina is female with the ability of Quick Feet and the hidden ability of Rattled. This Puccina has the Terra type of Dark. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Puccina knows. GG good job Naruto, Hinata said as Naruto picked up the ball. Yes, that was a good battle, my lord, Naruto heard in his head to see a Gyarados looking at him. He looked at him. Hello, can I help you? Naruto asked them as Sakura scanned Gyarados. Dex entry 130, Gyarados, the atrocious Pokemon. A tale is told of a town that angered Gyarados. Before the sun rose the next day, flames utterly consumed the town, leaving no trace behind, the Dex said as everyone looked at the atrocious Pokemon with fight and even Hinata let out a meep as she looked at it. Yes, my lord, I would like to join your team. You do not have to battle me, as I wish to join, the Gyarados told Naruto, who nodded and pulled out a second ball. He tossed it over to the atrocious Pokemon and caught it before using his Rinnegan to get the ball back in his hand. You have caught this Gyarados. This Gyarados is male with the ability of Intimidate and the hidden ability of Moxie. This Gyarados has the Terra type of Water. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Gyarados knows, the synthetic voice of Artemis said. Sakura looked down, saw the Pokemon beside her, and scanned it. Dex entry 403, Shinx, the Flash Pokemon. This Pokemon generates electricity by contracting its muscles. Excited trembling is a sign that Shinx is generating a tremendous amount of electricity, her Dex said as Sakura looked down. Do you want to battle? She asked, but Shinx shook his head. I wish to join you, he told her as she looked at Naruto. He said that wants to join you, Naruto told her as Sakura nodded, pulled out a ball tap, petted on Shinx's head, and caught it. You have caught this Shinx. This Shinx is male with the ability of Intimidate and the hidden ability of Guts. This Shinx has the Terra type of Electric. Turn the dial clockwise to see the moves that Shinx knows, the synthetic voice of Artemis said. Ino looked at Sakura, who was healing Puccina, whom Naruto had named Diana after his mother's Roman form. Then she started to look around to see if there were any more. She saw what she was after and went after the one she wanted. I'll go after her, Tenten said as she followed Ino into the forest. Land of Fire, Konoha, Hokage Building, Hokage's office. Tsunade sat behind her desk. She looked at the three elders, who were displeased with her. What can I do for you, three fossils? She asked them. Why did you put a bounty on Sasuke Uchiha? Kaharu asked as she scowled at Tsunade, who raised a brow. He is a Rouge ninja of Konoha hand who went voluntarily to join Orochimaru, an S-rank ninja, and the reason why the Sandaime Hokage, your former teammate, is now dead, she told them, as they did not like that answer. And if you're talking about the thing with Itachi, I already messaged him and declared that you three did all of what his brother had become, and he wants your death, Tsunade told them as the three started to pale. You sold us out to him, Hamura said as he started to back away before he bumped into someone. And when he looked, he saw the pissed off look of Itachi. She did, and it was time to be rid of some dying leaves to fall for new ones to bloom, he said before he killed Hamura and Kaharu before he turned to Danzo. Before the man could do anything, Itachi cut the man's arm off and then pulled something out of the man's head. It was a Sharingan Shisui, I did it, I avenged you, Itachi said. As she looked at Itachi, Tsunade said nothing, signaling for the bodies to be removed. What do you plan to do now? She asked him as Itachi let out a sigh. I don't know, Itachi said as he sat on a chair. Are you sure Sasuke left of his own volition? He asked as Tsunade nodded at him. Yes, the Anbu recording showed him leave the cell he was in and then left Konoha with Kabuto and Orochimaru's ninja, Tsunade told the teen, who sighed. I'll kill Orochimaru and wipe out Oto, Itachi said as Tsunade raised a brow. Then, I'll kill Sasuke, as that will be the one way to clear the Uchiha clan, and then I'll stage my death simultaneously, making it look like we killed each other, he said as Tsunade nodded at him. Or you could do something useful, Artemis said as she appeared in the office. And that is? He asked her. The mission that you have given yourself, do that, complete it, and when it is done I shall send you to where my son is and you can live there if you so wish, Artemis said as Itachi looked amazed before he looked down. I do not think that I am worthy of that, he told her as Artemis nodded at him. True, Itachi Uchiha, the man who killed all of his clan's men, does not deserve to go, Artemis said before she smiled. But, when you are finished, I shall change your gender to that of a woman, and with the name Izumi Uchiha, you can atone, she told him as Itachi smiled at the goddess. I accept, he said with a bow before leaving the office. Was that a good idea? Tsunade asked her as Artemis nodded at the blonde. I am, and he will know what to do when he goes there, Artemis said before she turned to look at Tsunade. And no, I do not blame you or the perv for what happened to my son, the goddess of the moon said as she turned to the godly realm. Kanto, Route 1. Naruto looked off into the sky as he saw the sun starting to get low. Let's set up camp, he called out as the girls looked to where he was looking and saw the same thing. so Harry pulled out the capsule that held their home away from home. He pressed the capsule in and through it, and as it landed, a large puff of smoke covered the building. When the smoke was blown away, it showed a building made of decorative concrete that followed an unusual concave curve. The lower front section, which had flowing water ducts and decorative foliage on either side, followed a convex curve and was split in half by the stairs leading up to the main entrance door. On the left of the stairway was a wheelchair-accessible ramp. The tinted door featured the design of the Deathly Hallow with light rays spawning from its center. Decorative symbols of the Pokemon types were engraved around the door, and a relief of a Pokeball symbol was at the top of the door. 6 tall black tinted windows, 3 on either side, spanned the building's facade, and the top had 3 thatched, tiki hut-styled roofs with a larger one in the center to house the main entrance, and the top also had guard rails, apparently for use as some observation deck. On the side of the door was an hourglass symbol, and Naruto walked over to look before seeing that he could use his Pokédex to turn it back to the capsule. The girls looked at the door, and then all 5 of them walked into the building. They saw that it was the same as their home in Pallet Town, but instead, the Ikibi had a fountain. The 5 animals on their doors were around the top, sending out sprays of water into the bowl. Who's going to cook? As I speak for myself and say I can't cook to save my life, Tenten said. Ino nodded. Same, she said as she looked at Hinata, Naruto, and Sakura. I don't mind cooking, Hinata said as she walked into the kitchen with Naruto joining them and started to help them out.